So, ladies and gentlemen, dear friends, good evening.
Hello. Hi, everyone.
I hope you guys got a nice, vacation, nice rest. But now we are, back up and running.
I know, back in the swing of things.
Absolutely. So, if you would be so kind, we are today broadcasting on LinkedIn and YouTube. If you can put on the comments that you can hear us and see us, I see on my phone that we are live on LinkedIn. So that's good. There's our Finnish friend, Miko, Finnish Czech friend. This is
Greetings from the sauna.
it's from the sauna or maybe from the forest. We don't know. So it's the StreamYard tool is quite slow at the beginning. It's like getting everybody connected. So yeah,
Yes.
there are
And it's
more.
such a nice sentiment. Finsky said, why did we take the summer off? Why did we take so long to come back? You missed us. We missed you too. We're happy to be back. We wanted to practice what we preach. We always tell people, do work-life balance, find the way to recover, find your
There are
space.
people from LinkedIn because LinkedIn is just connected. I check it on my phone. So
Perfect.
that's great. I can hear you and both see you, Jan Nicola, Pavla Frey. Yeah, okay. So maybe we can slowly start. More people coming both on YouTube and LinkedIn. It will be obviously recorded, so you can see it on LinkedIn and YouTube later on. The reason we are broadcasting from StreamYard, LinkedIn still did not fix like native broadcasting, so you need to have like third party tool. Maybe Lisa, if you can, kick off kind of what is the theme today, and then we can, discuss. We will say a few words, and
Yes.
then as always, there will be, refreshing Q&A discussion.
Yes, exactly. So first, I want to introduce ourselves for the people who don't know us yet. My name is Lisa Christen. I'm the CEO of a boutique leadership development, coaching, and consulting firm here in Zurich, Switzerland.
So she
And
is
we
like Swiss American.
Swiss American, of course. I mean, we also have
Absolutely.
our offices in New York. I grew up in New York. So we're a global agency and we work with, Fortune 100 leaders, executives, all the people who are really high successful or really getting close to high achievers. And we help them to figure out how can we be ready for the 21st century? Because the old style of leadership doesn't work anymore. There is no hierarchy where the boss just tells you what to do. There is no freedom from having emails drowning your inbox 24/7. So how do we make a sustainable career? How do we make a career that's fun and inspiring and interesting for us? How do we get self-empowered, right? How do we work in teams? All of these big leadership questions that we're all facing, that's what we help to answer. And I have an MBA. I've worked in Fortune 100s, and Jan and I know each other from being part of the Institute of Coaching associated with Harvard. So we're both fellows there. We have lots of great discussions about these leadership topics. And I'm really excited today to talk about the Great Resignation. But before we jump in, Jan, for anybody who is away from this planet living under a rock and doesn't know who you are, will you introduce yourself, please?
By the way, I made a great resignation 7 years ago from Microsoft when I resigned. I mean, I let them know, obviously, 6 months, before I was not done in the proper and nice way, but I did it. And we can, talk about it. Well, spent 22 years in Microsoft in the different, executive positions. My last job, I was for 8 years chairman for Europe. I think I was quite successful in my career. But obviously, there were also some huge, screwed ups. The major one was my depression. I was depressed 10 years ago for 6 months. I was 3 months in the mental hospital. So it was a huge, jump down in my, career. We can discuss that because it has to do with the leadership,
Have to.
right?
Yes.
Because I love my job so much that I forget to have a good, mental rest. People usually have a good physical rest, but sometimes we don't have a good, mental rest. And what I do now, I do similar to Lisa. I do executive coaching. I do a lot of seminars, teaching my seminar, unlocking human potential already in 21 countries. I do like Czech Republic and Slovakia, which would be like 50% of what I do. 50% is abroad. I did a lot, when we were Europeans, when we were allowed to travel to United States.
Travel? What's that? I can't remember.
I'm now doing a lot of things online with the United States, but I did a lot with the US universities like Harvard, Stanford, and so on. I'm teaching obviously also at INSEAD, where I'm an entrepreneur at residence. That's the now best MBA in the world, or at Imperial College and other like Luxembourg, business university. What is unique? What I did, I like leverage my kind of the executive muscles to the sport, because I'm former professional tennis player, and since like 5 years ago, I'm mental coach for the Czech Olympic top team. I have a couple of guys who won medals at the Tokyo Olympic Games, like for example, Alexander Šupenič, or Lucas Rohan in canoeing. Šupenič it's fencing, and I also coach one of the best players now in the soccer, Patrick Schick. Not the best player in Czech Republic, but overall, he was on the same level like Ronaldo at the European Championship. And the other specialty. I created with my colleague, with Katerina, we created special course first, unlocking children potential. So we train like 7,000 children, and we have, I wrote Positive Leader book. This is all about like leadership, self-awareness, all of that. Then unlocking children potential. It's like what you should do with your kids, so they are not only successful, but also happy. And now the new book, which is also bestseller, Family as a Team, which is quite interesting, right? Today team is really interesting, because when Lisa sent it to me, I said, "Wow, Lisa is having always some good thoughts and good ideas." What I realized, guys, that because of the COVID, it's now almost like 1.5 years ago, I started to do those sessions in Czech and in English. It was more in Czech at the beginning. Now it's thanks to Lisa, we do like more, partnership, and we started to do more in English on Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, and here on the LinkedIn. And for the first time, in kind of my career, a lot of people are coming and they said, Jan, first time in our life, we've got a time to stop and think like, what is the meaning of my life for the first time? Okay. And obviously they start to think, hey, is it, my job like reflecting my meaning in my life, right? And asking like, how can I figure out at all what is the meaning of my life? And obviously I created small model, which I put in my first book. It's like 3 circles, and Lisa will sure add, her own stuff, but it's basically, if you wanted to figure out what is really like deeply in your soul, right? First of all, let's first talk about motivation and inspiration. If you have a job, okay, and that job is well paid, and you like the fact it's well paid because you may, need to pay back for your, house or whatever, that's fine. It's called motivation, because you are motivated through that, money, through that salary, bonus, or whatever, right? The issue with the motivation is that motivation, because it's external motive, it's something external, is gone very soon. On the other hand, inspiration means from Latin, in spirit, in your soul. So if you would find, something which you really love, you are inspired, you have a huge emotional connection to, that's the best way how to be very well paid, afterwards. But also it's kind of the sustainable for you. So you don't need to make a resignation, because usually people are making resignation. Hey, they are maybe not happy with the salary. Very rarely, if you like and love what you do, very rarely, you would, sometimes it can happen, but very rarely the salary would be an issue, right? This is it. So basically the tool is following. The first circle, it's about self-awareness. So you need to figure out, what are your talents? What are your talents you were born with? Those are like the genes, okay? This is your potential. It doesn't mean that that talent is developed into the strengths, because there's a equation, strengths equals talent multiplied by your efforts, by your investment in that talent, okay? So this is it. So it is about figuring out what are your talents. I'm using, for example, Gallup test on StrengthsFinder. It's quite, famous. Some people are using different tests, but it doesn't matter. There are a lot of things,
A
you
good
can.
one. Yeah.
Oh, absolutely. So talents, that's the number one. Number two, talents are going like that. Okay. Then you need to figure out what are your passions. Because, for example, me and Lisa, we may have strategic talent and we use it in consulting. My friend who was my first athlete, David Svoboda, Olympic Games winner in modern pentathlon, he got the same, talent, strategic, but he's using it in the like training others, right? Because he's now coach. He was using it like when he was competing, right? If that talent, if that strategy talent would be with, some actor, that would be used in a different way. So those are like your talents, and those are activities which you really love. And where is clicking? Those are so-called flow moments. When you do something which is very difficult, but you love it so much that you are like, time is gone and you like it so much. Okay. But it's not enough, because meaning, your meaning of your life needs to go beyond you, because our brain is wired to help other people, even though, in some cases it doesn't look like, it is like, and I tell you why. The reason why humankind is, so much ahead is the fact that we were cooperating together, right? And we were, cooperating. Then there was like division of the labor and stuff like that. Anyway, so this means that in that model you need somehow to put the social, aspect, and that social aspect is the third circle, and those are your personal values. Now you may say, hey, you are crazy to talk about personal values if it's about other people. But we have so-called mirror neurons, and we are basically mirroring, other people. So if you take like 5 people you admire, and one thing per each and every person, those are your personal values. And when those 3 circles are overlapping, that's your meaning. Okay. What I realized, Bill Gates was quite happy, person. Okay. Because he loved what he did. He said, like, I never thought that I would be the richest person in the world. So which means like, at some point, more money will not buy you happiness. If you cover like basic stuff, if you are in Africa, money will buy you happiness, because you need to cover basic stuff. But then if you take Maslow's pyramid, it's something, different. It's like, self-recognition, recognition from the others, and then self-actualization, which means like you find your purpose, you find your meaning. Okay. So I think the happiest people, and I study happiness like for 25 years, sorry, happiest people are those people who are able to make other people happy through something they love. What is their meaning? You know what I mean, right? This is it. That's the social aspect. Okay, that was that. I was already in the flow, and with that,
You got so in the flow. I love that.
Because this is it. This is what people should, like, ask the question: is it, my job getting me closer to my meaning or not? Because maybe you are not doing that job in the right way. You are not using your, all your talents and stuff like that. And we can talk what I did, in Microsoft, because I inherited a team which was average or below the average, and suddenly when people started to do their jobs a little bit differently using the natural talents, it was the best team in the world. Okay, so Lisa, floor is yours.
Well, Jan, you did such a great job talking about what is the Great Resignation and what's one way to even solve for it. Because you're right, the number one reason that people are now leaving their jobs is because they had a moment to pause and they realized, do I really want to do this anymore? Right? And some of that is the work I'm doing is not meaningful. But there are actually many reasons that this great resignation is happening. So I want to touch base a little bit on that. Number one, sometimes people are just saying, I'm not going to accept the work conditions that I have anymore. Especially, for the workers who are in restaurants or at hotels, et cetera. They just said, wait a minute, you're going to pay me $7 an hour? No is the answer, right? For more of us who are in the office, where we're hearing the no, I'm not going to take it anymore, is on work-life balance.
Yeah.
Right? No, you want me to sit in front of my computer for 12 hours a day, 6 days a week, no back-to-back Zoom meetings, and then I have to do my actual work at night and then the weekends, and I'm stressed out and I have it's not worth it anymore, right? So people are leaving because they realize, oh, the job is not meaningful. They're leaving because they're saying, I'm burning out. I don't want to do this work-life thing. Another subsegment of people who have a problem with work life is particularly working parents and particularly working moms, right? Because imagine in some countries, let's talk about Germany for a second, kids were home from school for a year and a half. You're working a full-time job. You're taking care of your kids who are at home with you. You're helping their schooling. Absolutely. So millions of women left the workforce because of that. So there are lots of different things happening. Obviously, the reason the Great Resignation is happening right now is because during the pandemic, a lot of people said, I'm not going to leave my job. I don't know what's going to happen. Yeah, it's uncertain, right? So we said, we're going to hit pause. We're going to stay. I'm going to make sure I have a paycheck, whatever. So actually, it's like a year and a half worth of people who were saving up, plus the new people who had all these realizations. And everybody right now is saying, I quit. The market's flooded with new potential jobs. I can find something else. I can freelance. I can become my own boss.
Exactly.
People are leaving. So the question is, for those of you who are here today, there might be two different topics we even touch on today. One is, if you're a leader, how do you get your teams to stay? And you, as someone who's employed by a company, what do you do to love your job again so that you don't have to quit? Maybe you do have to quit. I don't know yet. But what are some things that you can do to say, okay, let me try this first. Let me see if I can make it work. And yeah, I loved what you said there, which is figure out what it is you even want from a job, right? Like, what do I like? What's important to me? What's my meaning? What am I good at? And how do I apply that to my job? It might be a conversation with your boss where you say, I love the company. I'm in the wrong role. Right? And for those of you who are actually going through this, feel free to type into the chat box. Let us know. Jan and I can do live coaching for a real situation that's going on, and we can share real practical advice and tips. So type it into the chat box there if you're interested for specific information.
Perfect. Yeah. There's a question. Please say something about work in Microsoft. I will. But before that, because we said, Lisa nicely, frame what I said about the meaning, right? There are a lot of models, and obviously we like the models, it works and so on. But let's talk about reality, which is reality is not that great as those models, right? Because if you take like Maslow's pyramid of the human needs, you have like security, safety at the bottom. That's what you can buy for the money. But then you have like recognition from the other people, kind of having, more one-on-ones, regular feedback and stuff like that. Then it's like self-recognition. And at the very peak of the Maslow pyramid is self-actualization, which means like you love what you do. You're looking forward to your job. And unfortunately, I do with a lot of like large corporations, what they do typically, people are giving them feedback. Well, like, material, like salary is kind of okay. It can be better, but it's okay. We have a cars and all of those things are, good, like, right. But we don't have enough time with the boss on one-on-one basis. We don't have regular feedback, especially with the young generation, because they see like social networks. It's like instant communication. They want to have an instant feedback. So you need to behave like from the boss where you were in the past. You need to be much more coached today, right? If you are leading the people. That's the other thing. And then they are saying, but we are not self-actualized at all. We are not using our best, talents. And what usually those large corporations are doing, they are increasing salaries or bonuses, which is like the bottom of the pyramid, right? So, and now the real numbers, Gallup is running every 3 years. The last survey was 2019. Engagement survey. How many people in average are engaged? Okay. Actively engaged people are those who are engaged and are like, encouraging other people to be engaged, are really like positive engine in the company. Engaged people are, just engaged. Disengaged are disengaged, but then there are like actively disengaged people. So let me Let me give you some numbers. Actively engaged people, it's only 16%. 16% people worldwide do the jobs
Not enough.
they have a talent for, and so on. So 84% are there just for the money. Out of that, it's half actively disengaged, which means like you're getting up in the morning, you think about your job, and you are like pissed off immediately. Then you go to the office and you have only one goal, to piss off other people in that office, right? So it's like infection. And this is the reality, guys. This is reality. I work, Jim Clifton, the Gallup CEO, is a good friend of mine. So if you wanted to read a good book, Jim wrote with his friend, they wrote a book, It's a Manager. They are saying that the success of organization is like 70% about the managers. It's all based on the data, because Gallup, as you can imagine, they do a lot of surveys, they get a lot of data. So the reality is kind of different. It's a tragic, like if you think about it, the whole world is running on the 1/5 of the capacity, right? We talk about how we can increase productivity, how we can make sustainability work. Well, we need to make sure that we are first using human potential in the right way. Okay, there's a lot of discussion, and I agree with like natural resources, stuff like that, but we are not using properly human resources. And let me now talk a bit, which was quite revolutionary, what I did 21 years ago in Microsoft. That was my first international job. I inherited like Central and Eastern Europe. It was 31 countries, 2,000 people. And that team, there were some good people, but that team was always like number 5, number 6, number 10, number 11 out of the 13 regions. And I knew I need to do something else, but I didn't know what to do. Okay. But then Reinhold Messner, who is a mountaineer, I asked him, we were working together. He was like inspiring, our people. So I asked him, what is the best way to the Mount Everest? He did Mount Everest for the first time without the oxygen bomb. Okay. And he said, yeah, there is no best way. It depends whether you have a better, arms or legs, what is your style, and so on. I said, which means that you can do the same job through the different skills, through the different talents. But I still didn't know how exactly figure out, how to do it. And then we met basically with Gallup. At that time, they were pushing this test, the Strengths Finder test. And what we did, we tested like everybody in the organization. And then there was a 101 with all people, all like 2,000 people. And what we did, and which was quite revolutionary, we said, this is the job description. This is what you are expected to do, okay? And this is who you are. These are your talents. Let's talk how to use who you are to achieve what we want, right? And suddenly the same team, which was average or below the average for 10 years, was 4 years in a row best performing team worldwide for Microsoft. And not only in like economical sense, but also in customer and partner satisfaction and in employee satisfaction. And those are like, long term, those are like sustainable things. I know it is a soft thing, but there are hard numbers behind it. Okay. They still didn't believe me, like year 1, year 2, they didn't believe me. But then 2003, my team did 300 million more profit as opposed to United States. Okay. I was only like 5% of Microsoft revenue, but I was almost 20% of Microsoft profit, right? Which that's what counts at NASDAQ. That's what counts. Those are the numbers, right? This is what you are getting in the pocket, right? So this is it. That's why I believe that, and obviously, if people do what they like, the way they like it, they are very often in the flow. Flow are moments when you do some hard things in your job, but you use your best talents. And if you are in the flow, you are 500% more productive, according to the study from McKinsey. You are learning 450% faster, and you are 400% more creative. And that's what we need in our corporations or in our businesses, people to be, creative, right? So this is it. And then obviously like endorphin is released, which means that people are not tired and stuff like that. So it is really very good. And this is not, since that time I repeated, you will be surprised. Jana, she's not here, she's very often on my sessions. Jana Zichova, She basically owns like six, they are renting it. She got like 6 Shell petrol station. She came to my seminar with the whole team running those 6 Shell petrol stations. So it's a very basic stuff. And she told me after half of the year, we absolutely changed. You know, we're growing like a crazy. We absolutely, people really like what they do. And now we will do another, you know, and she's growing. So it works both for the large organizations, like I did it recently with Slovenská sporiteľná Erste Bank, you know, or even with the smaller, right? I think the key is to use what is best in the people, to really like, you know, unlock what is best in them.
And this is the question, Jan, is for those of you who are here today saying, I don't want to just come as a leader, I want to come as myself. How do I unlock my best potential, right? We were talking about finding purpose, but what we haven't touched on yet, which is really important, is mental and physical and emotional well-being. Because during this pandemic, man, we went through a crazy time, right? There was so much uncertainty and your adrenaline got you through that. It's fine. In the beginning, we all banded together. We could make this happen, right? And then we realized this is not a sprint. This is a marathon.
Absolutely.
And then it's a wave. It's not a wave. It's a wave. It's not a wave. There's a new variant. Then it's this, that. We go back. We don't go back. We can go to restaurants. We can't go to restaurants. Vaccines work, they don't work. It's a nonstop up and down. On top of that, you're on Zoom meetings all the time, staring at a camera all day. Part of what we need to be able to do is physically and mentally be okay in order to even be in a place where we can then go and explore, right? And it's a balance. So if we do a little bit more of the physical stuff, it might give us the energy to then go out and look, what are my strengths? What might a new career look like for me? And then because you have this new career and you're excited about it, then maybe your spiritual stuff comes up, right? So it's sort of like a dance between all of these different things. And many people don't know to focus on actually any of them. They think, oh, it's okay. This is a stressful situation. So I'm in front of the camera. I just don't have time to exercise anymore. I'm working too hard. But by doing that, you lower your productivity, so you have to sit longer in front of a computer to do the same amount of work, right? Just the other week, my husband was saying, oh, I'm so tired, and he'll maybe kill me for saying this. I said, hey, I have an idea. Get off social media, right? Get off Instagram. You'll have how much more time, how much more energy, no more switching costs going on. And he got off and he's like, oh my God, my life has changed just by coming off of social media. So small behavioral shifts that we can do. If you're feeling like, I just don't have the time, energy, patience, ability to take this on right now, I just want to run and quit, pause for a second and say, maybe there are some really, really small things that I can do that can get me started on my journey. Because the whole point of what Jan and I have been saying is, maybe you don't need to quit. Maybe you find a way to make this job meaningful and engaging for you, right? We don't suggest, I don't think you would ever suggest someone stay in a job where they're miserable and just suck it up, right? Don't just go for the paycheck. So how do we find what's really interesting and valuable to us? And I saw in the questions here, someone asked about the book Start With Why by Simon Sinek. Great book if you haven't read it yet. I think there's a follow-up book as well that gives you exercises you can do to find your why. Yes. I think this is what people are looking for. Yeah, maybe you have an example. What's your why? Do you have a why?
My why. If it's interesting because I always thought that when I was still in Microsoft and kind of the Microsoft executive, so I was like, my why was like changing the world for the better, because I really thought, hey, software and what we did was, not only Microsoft, but Google, Apple, and all other organizations were really like, making a lot of positive changes. But then, after my depression, I really started to thought deeply why I was, successful in Microsoft. I was good in sales, marketing, all of technically, because I'm like software engineer by profession. But where I was really excellent working with the people. So I was like digging deeply And I think my why is basically helping other people to understand who they are so they can figure out who they can be, which is like helping them to really unlock their potential, right? Because there is a lot of, Lisa, you are now frozen for, for a while. You were frozen for some time.
Sorry.
No, like frozen,
Sorry.
but internet, I think it was the internet. Anyway,
Yes, I had a power outage today. Someone's
okay,
installing a swimming pool in our neighborhood and they accidentally cut the power.
I
So
see.
I might
Okay.
be in and out today. Sorry
No,
about that.
that's okay. So no, no, really, there's a lot of people, because I think successful and happy people, because success is great, happiness is even better to me, because usually if you are happy with what you do, the money will come, early, maybe earlier or later on, anyway, right? And happy and successful people, they have three commonalities. Like, number one, they understand who they are. Number two, they know what they want from life, right? And this is why things like, why from Simon Sinek, the Karin Isabel, she put there the tech talk, which is one of the, best tech talks at all. And Simon, we use him in Microsoft heavily. So he's a great guy. He's very, knowledgeable, right? So really understand who you are and what you want from your life, but it's still not enough, because you need to act, right? I'm like coaching, startups, and I'm telling them it's about two things: scaling and execution, right? You need to scale up the operation and you need to execute. With all respect to Elon Musk, if he will not be able to produce more than he's producing like 500,000 cars, a year, and there is like 2 billion, he wants to replace like all cars. There's a 2 billion, install base. There's no way you can, replace it in like 500,000. So it is about scale and execution, about even such, a rich guy and a good product, whatever. Anyway, so you need to have a third thing, and it's basically ability to decide to use who you are to achieve what you want. Because a lot of people complain about the environment, they are bringing, neighborhood, whatever, right? And you are not defined by environment, because there is a neuroplasticity. You can always rewire your brain. If you change environment, you change your thinking, you can get very different brain. Otherwise, I would not, survive after my depression if there would not be neuroplasticity, right? So those are the things. So I really try to help. I tell you, I'll give you one example. Those two guys who won, Olympic medals, with Alexander in fencing and Lucas in canoeing, they were not in the top 15 ranking before the Olympic Games. But what they did, at some Alexander at some tournament, he beaten basically worldwide number one, and the same Lucas won one, race in the it was like World Cup. And what I was able to create, I said, guys, now you are able to beat those guys. So you need to persuade your brain, hey, I'm there already. I'm that, good, right? And this is it, right? They really move, because usually, look, in our lives, it works like we have some huge expectations, but very often at some point, the reality is not there. And people are putting down expectation, which is fucking wrong. You need to work on your reality, right? You need to, right? My kind of the thinking is aim to the moon. If you miss the moon, you are still among the stars, right? You should not give up. You should work like step by step. And it is really about, about growth mindset. If you are able to be like excellent every day, a bit, better, then this is it. So that's, I know it's a long answer, what is fine, but this is it. And I realize I'm the happiest. Obviously, money is good, whatever, but who cares, right? But when I'm happiest is when I'm getting some, feedback that I help really people. They were in some difficult situations, right? Or with the kids. With the kids, it's, I love feedback from the kids. when they are saying, I was so much scared playing, but once I came to the seminar, you explain me the monkey in our brain, amygdala, and so on. There's an interesting, Karin Isabel is asking the interesting question. I'm also baby boomer, I'm 62. That it seems that baby boomers are retiring because they don't know how to manage millennials. I give you my view on that, but I would be very much interested what you think, Lisa.
Yes, because I will tell you, I'm what's considered an elder millennial.
Okay.
So I'm in the older bracket of the millennials.
What is it?
I'm
no, you
in
don't need to tell us the. So elder, whoever is above 64 is elder millennials.
No, you guys. So here's what's really interesting, and I love this that Karen that you brought this up because this topic was a big topic and then almost got dropped a little bit. Yeah, but it's absolutely true. Part of the Great Resignation is people just retiring and saying it's not worth it anymore. I'll just take my retirement now or early or whatever. And there is huge challenges across the generations. And what the millennial generation is sort of rightly or wrongly known for is the entitlement, right?
That's true. Yeah.
And this is actually something that's really interesting because Gen Z as well, Gen Z comes after the millennials. They're also in the workforce with us. What if you were to ask a millennial or Gen Z to describe, they wouldn't say I'm entitled, right? What they say is I want to have my voice heard. Yes, I'm 21 and I have no experience, but I'm still a person who has ideas. And some of the other people who have been there for a while have the experience. No, that doesn't work. That doesn't work. You're wasting our time in the meeting because we know that can't work.
Exactly.
That's a conflict waiting to happen, right? Or the baby boomers who grew up with the idea you do the work, you put in the time, you get the reward because you've put in the hard work and the effort and the time. And all of a sudden, millennials and Gen Z are like, I've been here a year, where's my promotion? Right? So they're going, oh, but you haven't worked hard and earned it over the years like we were expected to do. And then Gen Z and millennials say, okay, then we just leave a job and we just crisscross our careers, or we change, or we are a ballerina at night and then we do this and we have a side hustle here, right? There's a complete different mindset on what a career should look like, how fast we should be moving. Sometimes people just said, not worth fighting the fight.
No, and I tell you what, in my view, is a main driver. Is the fact that this is first time in the human history when the young generation understands and uses technology in a much better way than the current generation, right? Yeah. That's why they feel like we are better than you guys, right? Why we are not promoted, but it doesn't mean that if you understand better technology, you should be automatically, promoted, right? Because it's about emotions and how you lead people and so on. That I think that this is the driver. Well, what I would, recommend, what I really do quite successfully, because look, the athletes I have, it's between 20 to 30. I have some people who are over 30, but that's not that very often. So it's very young athletes. Then I, for example, coach one of the best YouTubers in my country, Christen. I coach, Michal Kyselica, who is a CEO for Robin Sharma. Robin Sharma, as you know, is one of the best authors. Like 70 million, people bought the book, the monk who sold the Ferrari. Yeah. And the way we started to work together, he asked me to coach him. But after first session, I said, I don't want any money from you. Let's work together. I'll coach you. You coach me on technology and how to do those things. And what do we do now? We do, in fact, we have my program in English and is, working on that. And that's the same with Kerry. So what I'm saying, you need to admit that you should do like coaching or leading top down, but you should be coached bottom up, right? From those people, how to use technology, how they think, and so on. If you will do it, Diana Reger, she's running Deloitte. I coach her. She's running Deloitte, 1,200 people here in Czech Republic. And she's doing the same thing. She's doing like every second month session with 20 young people, kind of where technology is going, how they think and stuff like that. And I think that this is the way. It should not be, I call it convergence of the generations. It should not be like, right? And so this is it. I think it would be pity if people would just resign because they are like, hey, we are too old. Whatever. Look, I will be 65 months from now, and I feel like 40. My wife is saying, you feel like 40 and you behave like 17 years old, which is probably true anyway.
Yeah, but it's a great conversation. What are all the stressors or the hassles that just sometimes make us disengage or make us say, hey, that's not a workplace for me. But here's something really important, Jan, that you said earlier that I really want to come back to, which is the really wise, smart, successful, creative people understand something that the rest of the world doesn't, which is no matter what is going on around you, you stay within your power, which means, yes, I have a bad boss who is yelling at me all the time. Who do I want to show up as? How do I want to be? How do I want to influence in this situation? And not I complain because this process doesn't work so well, right? I help teams implement Agile. You can imagine how many complaints there are.
Sure.
But it's too self-empowered and there's not enough this and I don't know the risks and it's really hard, right? Yes. And, right? So it's like, how do I stay in my power and in my control no matter what's going on? I want to tell you an example. This was the example that popped into my head when you were talking earlier. I had a client who was looking for a new role. She saw it within her company. She saw two roles that were really interesting, but she liked some parts of this, some parts of this, and so we said, okay, let's coach about it. Why don't you go talk to them? And they created this combined role for her where she could really execute both. And she said, well, now this is an interesting and completely fulfilling role. And I will tell you this, one of her colleagues then came up to her afterwards and said, I saw your announcement that you got this role, but I never saw this role advertised. How come you got this role? And she said, because I asked them to create it. Right? Because I took responsibility. I took the action. I took the empowerment. I saw a situation that wasn't working for me. And I said, how can I make it work for me?
Lisa, I give you another example. One of my, clients now, I basically did a workshop for them. Board was like tested, right? And I create for them like the tool, how they can, work together based on their talents. But what do they do now? They did basically like everybody got like there are 9 people, so they've got like 9 different like photo and 5 top talents for each and every person, so they know who is who basically, which is okay, but it's not very revolutionary. What is revolutionary? If they do some projects, they are not like allocating people based on their functions or their business cards, but based on their talents. That's exactly what right? You can do like job description, but you can do it around the projects also, right? And then you because look, you may think that I'm bullshitter, right? Well, but there are some real numbers. Shell ran this study. What does it take to be for 200 years among top 5 in your specific vertical? Okay. And the only long-term competitive advantage they could find is your ability to learn fast. Okay. And people are learning fast if they are using their talents. That's the fast, learning. That's what Comenius was saying, schola ludus, school by play, basically. And you can have a work by play, right? You can really, have a work like a play, and then you are using your talents. You are at your best. You are in the flow. You have a best performance, right? And this is it. And that's that would like mean that, in my view, and I'm saying that for 20 years, those organizations which will be able to unlock human potential, to use what is best in each and every person, will be the best. Because now we still have it like, hey, this is the job description and we will put somebody there, stuff like that. If we will take it the other way around, say, hey, there are like 10 strategists available in my group, okay, those are like I need somebody who got like vision, right? Then you can really combine different talents, and those people, they will be very happy. It's almost like if you give a kids responsibility. If you will say, hey, Joe, you are a great defender, you will play defense, you will defend, it's a great thing for you. He'll play defense, even though defenders are not that well paid as people who play offense. Right? I mean, I'm kidding. There are not that many good defenders now in Europe, by the way. but this is it, right? So I think it is really about like starting with a human being, whether it's you, like you, me, or like you, if I'm your manager. So hey, I will look at Alyssa, not like what was her experience, but rather because experience is changing. Come on, right? Experience is changing. Well, what are your talents? What are your genes? This is important.
Yeah. And by the way, really, I want to just call this out. Notice that you didn't say, what do you not know? What are you not good at? And let's coach you at the things you're not good at, which is what most people do for themselves and what most organizations do. Why? Because we learned it at school. We said, you got this wrong in red. Here's the X. Fix it. So we learned focus on what's wrong, focus on what's wrong, focus on what's wrong. And no, focus on what's right. Double down. Of course, you have to know some stuff. If you're getting it wrong, you have to fix it so it's not a liability. And then focus on the strengths. And what's really interesting, we're talking about learning, how important that is. One of the big reasons people are resigning is because they don't have enough learning and development opportunities. And that doesn't just mean they don't like their job title or they don't like their career. They just feel they're not growing.
Exactly. One thing which Bill Gates, when he started in Microsoft, did well, and it's still there, this culture. Microsoft, even though it's a huge company now, but people work in relatively small teams. So you can see immediately what is the impact of your job. And it's like positive snowball, like, hey, I'm good strategist, or I'm good, analytic, I'm empathical person. So I work in, HR, and this is it. How many people I help, and it goes, and you really like what you do. If you are, part of some like very small, part in a large, machine, it's hard to see your impact,
Exactly. And that's it. So that's why we say, if you can stand in your power and say, not do I make a difference, but change the mindset, change the way you say that and say, how can I make a difference? What can I do? What difference do I want to make? Motivate yourself, not that things are happening to you, but what can I do in the face of whatever circumstances are going on, right? And part of that is a big learning and development, whether you go back to school, whether you start reading books, whether you learn new skills, whether you learn to code or do agile or just read poetry and philosophy. All of it is helpful in just growing yourself as a whole being. And that will help you to expand and understand more. When Jan was saying, you have to know yourself. You have to understand yourself.
There is in fact, I'm invited next week to comment on some, new movie about like upbringing of the young, guy. But anyway, there is a great book from David Epstein, who is a journalist, called Wrench. Wrench is the name of the book. And that book, it's amazing. There are so many studies. And the basic question is it better to be generalist as opposed to specialist? Okay. And the answer is it's better to have a lot of interest, to be really curious, which means like generalists are better. Even like doctors today, they are really studying not only their specialty, but how it, ties to the other areas, right? So he's using people like Federer from Switzerland, obviously Da Vinci, right? And stuff like this. So it's quite, I don't think that the book is in Czech. I know there are a couple of Czech people, but it's a book in English. It's really good. It's called, Ranch, and pretty good book.
Yes, I highly recommend it. I'm actually just giving a speech where I'm going to talk about Galileo and the way he realized he had a big discovery about the moon. Because For thousands of years, we thought, oh my goodness, Earth is this terrible place humans have corrupted, but the moon and the stars, wow, that's really part of some like spiritual, religious gods have it perfect. And he looked at the moon through his telescope and he said, it's not that perfect. And the reason he knew that is because he also was really good at sketching, and he knew when he sketched how to draw the shadow of a mountain. He realized how the shading works, and he said, nope, what I'm seeing on the moon is shading, and it's from things
He
like
was
mountains.
able to put together the things which look,
That's
usually if you want to be like creative, innovative in your job, it's usually like putting together things which are known but looking at them from the different angle. It's almost like pivot tables in Excel, right? Like looking at the numbers from the different, as you said, this is it. That you can, if he would not be curious, he would never be able to find it, right? I think curiosity is very important. And again, if your job is helping you to be curious, to have like broad, range of the experience, that's a good job probably, right? Some jobs are obviously like, hey, this is it, right? Because then you think about it. If everything goes well, then everybody is employed. But if there is a crisis, economical crisis, there is a shortage of the jobs, and those people who get more thing to offer, are having better chances. This is it.
And this is how you make your job more interesting. The other thing I want to say, and if anybody has any specific questions, go ahead and write them into the chat box now before our time ends. But what I wanted to say is like, just speak up for what it is that you want. With this creativity, with this innovation, companies are begging and CEOs are begging for innovation. If you have this skill set, believe me, people want to hear from you. And the other thing is, have these conversations. Even if you say, oh, I don't feel so comfortable having my voice heard in this room, call on your courage and do it anyway. Learn how to say, I'm going to show up in the way that I want to show up. And I give you an example. During this great resignation, I had a friend of mine who was saying, okay, they want us to come back to the office. Well, there's another reason that people are quitting their jobs, by the way. Anyone who's mandating you have to come back full time, people are like, are you crazy? I've been working from home. I want some flexibility. So her office mandated have to come back full time 5 days a week. And she was like, yeah, not going to happen. But this was mandated for all employees. So what would some people do? They would either quit or they would say, okay, I have to go back. Well, she went to her boss and had a side conversation, did a little bit of influencing and negotiating, and she's able to work from home full time. No problem.
Yeah, and there is a one thing. I give you example. I have a program in radio called Premier League Thinking for like 6 years, where I, probably like 250 people were there, really people from Czech Republic and Slovakia who achieved something in sport, business, art, stuff like that. Okay. And I'm asking them usually, tell me, what are your strengths? And like 90% of those people, they are really high achievers already. Okay. 90% of those people would say, you know what? It's so difficult for me to talk about my strengths. And I think this is the problem. It is about education, about family and stuff like that. I think, and obviously I was like 22 years in American, company, more like American mindset, whatever. But for me, it's quite normal to, speak about who I am, what are my talents, right? So the thing is, don't be afraid to talk in front of your boss or other people about your talents, who you are. That's absolutely fine. It's not, it's nothing, bad, right? This is it. It's nothing. People think it's arrogant to speak about who you are, but it's not, right? It's like, no.
Exactly. Show up into your power, right? This is the executive presence that also helps you. If you're really good at communication, influencing, writing, and executive presence, regardless of what job you have, what company you're in, you're going to do an even better job. So for anyone who's here going, I want to influence my boss, I want to have a difficult conversation to convince them to let me have more responsibilities or take on a project, the first thing you can study is charisma, or the first thing you can study is, how do I have a difficult conversation? right? These are the skills that you could be learning now, develops you. They're useful for any job in the future, and they help you get one step closer to designing the job that you love. Because here's the thing about life, it's yours. Everyone else in your life is just a consultant to you.
Exactly.
Your doctors, your spouse, your parents, it's your life. So if you want to get the most out of it, you have to be consciously designing it. You can't just sort of let life happen and you happen to be in a job and you just kind of stayed there because the money was okay. And no, you design it.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. Because in my life, whatever I did, when I like decide, hey, I wanted to do this job, or I wanted to do like work with the kids or work with the athletes, I didn't know how to do it, Like I thought, hey,
Exactly.
but I knew that I will figure out, because it's my, self-confidence. It is about self-confidence. Doesn't mean I know now exactly all answers. No, if you are curious, you are able to learn. And I'm now, thanks to YouTube and internet, I'm able to learn from the best people in all, like whatever I figure out, it is there, right? So this is it. You will figure out on the Andrei Trichak is saying exactly. You will figure out on your way. You just should not be afraid, and you should not be afraid to ask for the help. And also your people, it's absolutely fine. There's a lot of people who are saying, but I cannot show my vulnerability. I cannot talk about my weaknesses in front of my people. It's great, and it's your strength to speak about your weaknesses in front of your people, right? Because I have whenever I spoke about my technical abilities, I said, guys, I've got technical abilities 15 years ago, but since that time, it's gone, right? More or less. So I rely on you. I think I can, lead you. I can help you, whatever. But, I'm not like, I was running like operation. It was like, 1,000 people consulting services. And it was like that. I said, I don't know. I know how it fits to our overall, offerings and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But I cannot talk to you about bits and bytes, about like how to code, how to do coding, right? So this is it. But just don't be afraid. You will figure out, because again, smartness is not about having all necessary answers. Smartness, to me, it's about asking right questions. Right? Because if you ask right questions, right, you will always figure out the answer. If you in Czech, we are saying, the right question is half of the answer. Basically, that's what we are saying.
I would say it's like 90%, right?
90%.
Because what I would actually, yes, because most people.
That's probably in Switzerland. That's probably.
Yeah. Well, I know at least problem and solution. You walk into a corporate, or we have a coaching client, or in my own life, you say, what's the problem? Got it. Solution. Do you really know the problem? Do you really understand it? Do you really know what it is you want or need out of that situation? If you pause and go back and spend 90% of your time figuring out the real problem, solution's easy. But solve it once and solve it right.
Absolutely.
Same thing goes for your life. Same thing goes for your job. If you know you're unhappy, don't just quit. Now, there are definitely times when you should quit. Don't get me wrong. But you need to know first, am I running away from something? Or am I running towards something else? Is there a greater passion calling me forward? Is there a greater purpose I want to go towards? Or am I just sick of what's happening here?
And here is the last tool, and then we will wrap up. Because Lisa, you are not aware, but we lost a couple of people. I tell you why. Czech Republic is playing qualification match.
Okay, we'll end in a minute here. We'll end.
Anyway, guys, some housekeeping. Give us, on write us on, LinkedIn what kind of the teams you would like to have, right? Because we wanted to do it interactive. That's one point. And to follow what Lisa said, if you would have like, hey, this is my current job, and I may consider something different. So we have two different scenarios. Okay. So do following. Put it in the spreadsheet and put in each and every row some important criteria for you. It can be your freedom. It can be your financials. It can be the family time, whatever, right? Put there whatever 10, 15 items. And for each and every, cell on those two scenarios, put there 1 is the lowest score, 10 is the highest. If you will sum it up, you will see immediately, based on, it's not about emotions, it's not about touchy-feely thing, it's about the facts. What you really love, what are your like values and so on. You will see immediately, hey, is that my scenario 1 good, or is it, the other scenario better, right? This is it, basically.
Yes, exactly. And I will tell you, as we wrap up tonight, every night I ask my daughters and I ask myself 3 questions. What are you grateful for today? What's something you learned today? And did you do something that scares you today? And that pretty much sums up everything you need for success in life.
Absolutely. Because
So,
because the thing is to learn every day. I tell you, this is the last thing, and then we go for the next.
You're always in the flow. I love it. Yeah.
Well, Lisa said, it's like, what do you like, what do you learn? That's quite obvious. But what is really good, what scares you, because you want to move out of your comfort zone every day. Because I tell you what, our brain likes stability, and we go like, if we learn something new, if we move out of the comfort zone, we are like, again, on the plateau. We need to move, again. It's called homeostasis. Homeostasis means that you basically learn to be there, but you are not learning, more. That's why you need to do maybe you can talk to your boss or to your boss about some topic you were afraid of to talk about, stuff like that, right?
Yes.
So this is it, right?
Have a scary conversation. Just go for it. If you feel like you do something and you fail miserably, know you're in good company. Jan has said, I failed many times. I failed many times.
Absolutely.
All the great people have failed many times. That's the point. You can't reach the high success without those failures. So just keep going. We will be here in 2 weeks.
Absolutely.
For LinkedIn Live. Connect with us on LinkedIn. Let us know what themes you want. And thanks for joining us today. It was great to have you.
Yeah. We do LinkedIn Live and YouTube Live. You can, find it's recorded. You can find it on LinkedIn or on my, YouTube channel. So thanks very much, Lisa. Thanks very much. It was wonderful. Thank everybody.
Thanks,
Finsky Kranik saying that it's 0-0, but Estonia is leading against Belgium. That's good. We've beaten Estonia 6-2. Estonia is like outsider, but it's good. Czech plays to Belgium over the weekend. That would be another, thing.
Okay.
Thank you.
Take care, everyone.